Hey, back. It's been a bit, and it's a couple of days off. So actually working on that Golden Sun video, which came out. I'm happy with the way it turned out. Um, Again, I'm gonna be doing that concurrently with my other projects. So the next topic we're doing is Stalkers. Pretty straightforward. So let's get to it. Okay, where do I want to go about this? So they actually let us out of work a little bit early, but I'm still technically on standby. So if just in case they need me, I have to go back. So I have an hour of standby left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start this outline up. I might get started with the next Golden Sun one, which is gonna be Soul Sanctum. Well, 3 years time skip Soul Sanctum, but for now we're gonna start working on this outline. So let's get the party started. As usual, these streams they're useful because you can actually see me actually cooking, and they're for validation and verification, of course. So you know that I'm actually taking the time and effort to actually write these from beginning to end. Okay, let's see. How should we go about this? Okay, let's. How do we want to start this? Thank you. That's a good way. That's a good way to start this. What if the scariest enemy isn't the one you fight, but the one that never stops coming? I was able to give my voice a little bit. Well, I was able to give my body enough time to recover, so I can actually speak well. So I've been working on this for like an hour. Go to the gym, have chow, come back, and maybe start the script for this or get started in the next goals and outline. Again, I'm working on that. I'm working on that one congruently. That's a advanced project on its own, so do have to dedicate a lot of time to that. But I'm not going to let it get in the way of my other projects. That's the first one. I'm using this specific one because compared to all the variations of Nemesis in the original one, like the original version of Nemesis before the clock tower, he's great. He's good. But after the clock tower sequence when Jill gets affected, like this Nemesis with the tentacle, oh my god. That's just pure unadulterated aggression right there. And the fact that he also goes after Carlos. Shout out to the clock tower. We miss you. And the Dark Horse, Daniella. So what I'm gonna do is, just like my other video, I'll use a cinema. I'll use a cinema stalker to help support the outline. So I used him last time, but we use Michael Myers again because he pioneered a lot of the tropes for horror in general, especially when it comes to stalking. He is the original stalker. Halloween 2. We'll use Halloween 2 because that's the first stalking sequence. And that's a pretty infamous one too. Like that one. Oh, that stalking sequence was amazing. So yes, he will be the cinema example, and I'll narrate what I see in the stalking sequence. Again, I'm a horror buff. No biased opinions. I'm just gonna analyze just like I did with the other video. Pretty straightforward. Lighter fight as usual. We're gonna put freeze in there because people generally do freeze whenever they're confronted with their stalker. Yeah, that works. So this is good. We got a good sound here. Just got to keep on checking just in case work needs me to come back. Because we're still technically on duty. Okay. Okay, Mr. X, what do you represent? Be very cheeky with these descriptions. I knew it. It is inevitable. He is going to eventually get you. He is going to eventually chase you down. It's going to happen. Okay. Again, we're being specific with the Nemesis here. So if you really want to be cute about it, he technically did mutate during the clock tower sequence. Well, after clock tower. Yeah, we're gonna be cute about it. Okay, that's fine. I can work with that. All right, Daniela is the dark horse. She's definitely the dark horse out of all the stalkers in Haunting Ground. This is pretty straightforward. I enjoyed our escapades together, Daniela. Straight up identity. Yeah, definitely. If you really look like deep down at her, like her whole entire section with Fiona, it's there are very scary implications of what Danielle is going to do to Fiona. Very, very terrifying, terrifying implications. Fiona goes through a lot of shit. Honestly, out of all of these, out of the three major stalkers that we're going to be talking about, Danielle is going to be the complex one for sure. Maybe let's do a okay. We'll supplement this. Well, yeah, we're definitely gonna supplement this with an in-depth analysis. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Um. Yeah, that'll work. That'll definitely work. Okay. First, Mr. X. We don't need to go into that much detail. We'll just start with bare bones for now. So we'll make our way. We'll just be. Mr. X. How did I feel when I experienced that Mr. X? Uh, yeah, he was just constantly on my ass and paranoia. Uh, the fact that you can hear him from like miles, well, not miles away, but the fact you can hear him definitely aids in the tension. Hey, you did a video on tension. I really like how that video came out. Sound design. Yeah. Even though he's not directly in front of you, just the fact that you hear the boom, 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 you know he's around. Okay, that's more need be. No. Let me just switch to music real quick. Mm, this one really sets the tone. Actually, no. Let's go back to the record. And as usual, I'm not the type of person that will bash that bashes games, believe it or not. So I'm totally like indifferent when it comes to like the remake. Extremely indifferent. Okay, technical Nemesis is pretty straightforward. You fucking use this word a lot, but now you decide you don't want you can't spell. Grotesque. Test. Tentacles. Fine. He still looks. Well, he's still semi-scripted, but that's fine. It still doesn't take away from the impact, even though he's semi-scripted. Okay, we can talk about Daniella now. And again, as I mentioned before, Daniella is going to be the interesting one. The reason I say that is that I know that Haunting Ground is one of Capcom's hidden horror games. It's one of the hidden gems, actually. So obviously, I've mentioned this before. It's part of the Clock Tower series, and it's their last game. Daniela as a stalker is extremely unpredictable, as in the way she is. Like one moment she'll be just like doing the typical stalker thing, just chasing you around. The next second she'll be just cooking. I'm like, wow. The first time I seemed like, okay, are we just taking a break? Cool, all right. Then you leave the room. Oh, the chase begins again. So she definitely is a stalker. She's just very unorthodox. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. All right. So definitely the big one. Don't die. Just literally just don't die when you're dealing with her. Um. So out of all the stalkers in Haunting Ground, she's the fastest. Definitely the fastest. Yeah, because she was always on my ass. All right. Okay, that's good. All right. Again, it's not that bad, but all right. When I actually start writing my script, I just gotta remember each of these each of these requires a very in-depth analysis. All right. Okay, so I have to bring up Myers. So again, just like I did with my other detention video, I'll be analyzing certain scenes from a specific movie that I feel will actually aid in the point that I'm trying to drive. So, as usual, as mentioned, I'm a horror movie buff. I like horror games just as much as I like horror movies. So I feel this is in my jurisdiction to actually provide good information for people. So definitely, this Michael Myers is the OG, the pioneer of a lot of horror tropes and a lot of horror, just horror in general. We'll have to use him as another example. And ironically enough, he's the original Stalker. So we'll be using Halloween 2 because Halloween 2 is arguably one of the most infamous Stalker sequences in my eyes. Okay. And take it from me, the amount of shenanigans he was doing in this movie is like baffling. Like he was pretty pissed off because obviously the events of Halloween 1 and not being able to kill Laurie, but yikes, the amount of shit he was able to get away with in this movie is like that's a whole entire case study by itself. I'm using this word very loosely. No. He did have no urgency. Like he was systematically just killing people. He was taking his time. Laurie was drugged up and throughout that whole entire movie. And he was just throughout the hour to 2 hour runtime. He was just straight up just killing people. Okay, next. Who fuck? Okay, that's not. Alright, where was I getting at? Yeah, definitely in this movie. This is the only time you'll ever see an empty hospital, especially in this movie. And definitely during the chase sequence, slow pacing. And long drawn out shots, especially when he's climbing downstairs. Um, since again he is pretty much the original Stalker, I need to talk about how Halloween 2 did have probably the first stalking, like actual stalking sequence in horror. And again, this is just pretty much me just using my jurisdiction as a big horror movie buff to supplement the point that I'm trying to prove. And we're gonna be totally unbiased. I'm gonna give my honest analysis of this. No crazy opinions, because I know people hate my opinions, even though it's an opinion. I love the internet. The internet's a fine place. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Let's just look at the sections that we have right now. Now, I get back to okay, so let's actually look at what we have. So, introduction, the psychological effects of being stalked, what each stalker represents, an in-depth analysis of each stalker, stalking in cinema. Uh, let's talk about why stalkers work. Um, I got like 15 more minutes left. No, actually, I still got like 40 minutes left, but because I need to go to the gym and get chow, but we're good. Later on, I'm still debating what I'm going to do. It's either I start the outline for the next Golden Sun one, I start the script for this, which is probably going to be the Golden Sun one because I need to still work. That's a whole entire lore dive into that damn game, so it's going to take forever to get that done. Give me a sec. Good work. So, sorry about that. Okay, why stop? Why stop? Um, psychology. Okay, how do I want to go with this? So, when we think of stalkers, um, here's how here's my mentality when it comes to like stalkers from a cinema point of view. Here's my opinion in regards to stalkers from a cinema aspect of it. Hello. So when we deal with stalkers, especially like in a horror movie, we're afraid of the how unpredictable they are. We're afraid of how omnipresent they are and our helplessness. This applies to like Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. So in Resident Evil 2 make. So in regards to Mr. X, when we first dealt with him, like hello, hello there. When we first dealt with let's chat. So when we first dealt with Mr. X in Resident Evil 2, the first thing we thought was, oh man, this guy is just in my face. He's so unpredictable. I feel helpless. What am I supposed to do? He's always on the map, which is true. He's technically always on the map. And he's always keyed into your location. So that's a fear right there. Same thing goes with original Nemesis. Original Nemesis, even though he was scripted and he would only show up when the camera changed, he was always on your ass. And if you enter the save room, if you enter the save room and when he was still on the map in that specific area, he was still out there. And the save room music would change. Okay, we can go with that. Okay, let's see. How do we want to write that? So definitely when we are afraid of how unpredictable stalkers are. Fear of unpredictability. I totally just butchered this. Of course I did. This is gonna be a fine video. Okay, so we're afraid of how unpredictable they are, how the presence is always there, the omnipresence. Butcher that. My spelling is terrible right now. The omnipresence and how helpless we are. And the same thing goes for cinema as well, as I'll get into later. And helplessness. So next, so using another horror movie as an example, look at how the final girl deals with Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees, depending on which version of him is being dealt with at the time, we'll use Zombie because that's the familiar one that people know. No matter how many times you take Jason down, his healing factor will always bring him back. So you technically can't kill him at all. So the only time you'll ever win in regards to dealing with a stalker of that caliber is just to survive. So stalkers break our fantasy. And it's usually the final girl who ends up surviving. So in regards to Mr. X, obviously Leon and Claire survive their encounters with Mr. X. Jill survives. Fiona survives, and can't really use Halloween as an example of this because eventually the final girls do end up dying later on. Survival becomes the only one. That happens in Friday the 13th as well. Like the original final girl in Friday the 13th 1, she kills Mrs. Voorhees. Then in Friday the 13th Part 2, she ends up dying. literally in the first 10 minutes, becomes the only way. Okay, so let's go into examples about how these stalkers were going with our dress. So going off of Mr. X in RE2 make, he's technically not too different from his RE2 original make. It's just he's bigger. He's a lot more bigger and imposing. Besides wearing a fedora, he shares a similar design scheme to him. It's just the way they designed him just makes him just seem just like an unstoppable force, which he technically is an unstoppable force. So every time he's on the screen, tension is built, dread, and you know if he catches you, you're gonna die. Again, we're not using RE3 make Nemesis, we're using the original Nemesis, specifically Type 2 Nemesis, Tentacle Nemesis. So it's the same thing, it's just this time, from Jill's perspective, she's been dealing with Nemesis version 1 throughout the whole entire night, and he just shut down the helicopter that she was going to use for her escape. And she gets affected with the T virus. She takes it down. She ends up getting unconscious. Carlos takes over for a while. Nemesis is still alive. Nemesis, in his tentacle shirtless form, is more aggressive, as people have seen. Like, even though it's scripted, he busts through that door. Like in that whole little sequence, Carlos has to stop him from going to kill Jill, who's in the church. So the tension is built up. The shock factor of him just being not even passive, just overly aggressive now compared to how he wasn't in the entire time. Yeah, the design definitely is going to be playing a key role here. The design principle. The design principle would go like this: tension over shock, dread over gore. Because at the end of the day, you know Mr. X is going to kill you if he gets a hold of you, but just the fact you can hear him stomping about, you're going to be feeling a lot of dread. Like, the tension is there, but man, that build-up he has, you just know he's coming. So us as a player, how do we feel? Using myself as an example, when I hear Mr. X, I personally start panicking. I'm not going overboard, of course, but I start getting more tense. I'm like, damn, he's on my way. He's gonna wreck me. He's an unstoppable force. No matter how many times I down him, he's just gonna keep on coming. Same thing with not so much Resident Evil 3 OG Nemesis, because once you down him, he gives you the drop and he's gone. But since Mr. X is always on the map, it's like, you're just gonna down him and he's just gonna come back later on. And using Haunting Ground with Daniella as an example, you can't defend yourself against the Stalkers in Haunting Ground. No matter what you do, no matter where you hide, they will find you. They'll go away for a little bit. They're gonna find you. So us as a player, we have to be dealing with like emotional endurance, emotional discernment. It becomes part of the gameplay. Emotional endurance. Bingo. So emotional endurance becomes part of the gameplay. All right, so now, since we brought that up, the player's perspective of it, let's add a separate section for that. So emotional endurance becomes part of the gameplay. So now let's talk about the player's role in the Stalker dynamic. The player's role there's a lot more to it, in my honest opinion, besides running and taking cover. Especially in regards to like these new age stalkers. Because if you played Clock Tower in the past, the original series, there's nothing you could have did. You were going to be running for a very, very long time. So putting ourselves in the shoes of whichever character we're playing, we're not us as a player. We're not controlling someone. You're not just controlling someone. We're being hunted. Yeah, we can just go with that. You are not just controlling. You are not just controlling someone being hunted. Yeah, we're not just controlling someone being hunted. We'll use Fiona as an example. Us as a player, we're playing Fiona. She's being hunted right now. The character Fiona is being hunted, but us ourselves are being hunted at the same time. We're being hunted yourself. Okay. Where is technique? Sorry about that. Okay, since we just talked about the player dynamic, we can still add a little bit more to this. So again, we're not just controlling someone being hunted. Us as the player, we're the ones being hunted. So using Mr. X as an example here. So putting myself as someone being hunted. The stalker, using Mr. X as an example, he's manipulating how I feel as a player. I'm going to be more cautious. I'm going to be a little bit more careful. In RE2, I'm not going to be doing shit that gets his attention. And the paranoia is going to be there. So us ourselves as the player, we have to change the way we play in order not to aggro the stalker. So in a sense, the stalker is manipulating us as we play. They're manipulating our behavior. I got like 15 minutes left, and I gotta start getting ready for lunch. Well, dinner. Okay, how stalkers manipulate player behavior. Player behavior. We're more cautious. Be more cautious. Cautious movement. Cautious movement. We avoid taking risk aversion, and we gain a sense of paranoia. And the thing is, since they're manipulating our behavior, we're no longer in control. They themselves are shaping our actions. So there's an illusion of control. What just happened? No idea what just happened. Okay, whatever. So there is an illusion of player control. The illusion of player choice. The illusion of player choice. We feel that we're in control. You feel in control. You feel in control, but the stalker is influencing our actions. They're shaping our actions. but they shape our actions. And again, just the fact that they're doing this, though carrying on with the emotional endurance of all this, I don't know about everybody else who's played through RE2, dealing with Mr. X, the fatigue ends up getting to you. Running from the Stalkers and Haunting Ground, the fatigue gets you. Physically and mentally. Using the mental aspect of it, there's an emotional fatigue, in my honest opinion. Emotional fatigue. Slow grinding of I totally butchered that. That's fine. Okay, so in a sense, the Stalker is always on your ass. But I'm not gonna say ass. We'll use an analogy. The Stalker becomes your shadow. Stalker becomes your shadow. They're always present, even when they're not present. So, always present, even when they are unseen. And this is going to play a key role in the horror movie analysis, because as we know, what was the meme? Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, those stalkers, even if you're running, they'll always catch you. So even though they're not visible, you know that they're always there. They're always present, even if they're like out of shot, out of frame. Especially in like Mr. X's case, like you know he's always at the map. Okay. I think that's good. So we've talked about. So let's see what we got so far. So we've talked about this is to be the introduction right here. We've talked about the psychological effects of being stalked. So the brain response, the flight, freeze, and why stalkers exploit freeze, anticipatory anxiety and hypervigilance, the toll of constantly being watched, learned helplessness, how prolonged stalking strips away control. Okay. Sound design, movement patterns as tools of psychological manipulation, especially in like Mr. X's case. What each stalker represents, Mr. X's authorization of I can't even say it right now. Sorry. Authorization of inevitability, the crushing presence of power. Nemesis, he's mutating inevitability and violent death by a horror made flesh. Daniella represents identity breakdown, emotional repression, and twisted femininity, especially in regards to Fiona. So each stalker has a reflection of fear, with specific fear, control, transformation, and self-destruction. I'll go into a little bit more detail as I'm writing the script for this. So just a brief analysis of certain characters. Mr. X is the methodological pursuit in forced paranoia. Sound design that makes absence feel like presence. Tentacle Nemesis. Grotesque tentacles as evasive and escalating fear. Semi-scripted appearances and loss of player control. He's a symbol of mutation, death, and no escape. Daniella, which is going to be the dark horse, is a surreal pursuit tied to Fiona's psyche. Her obsession, jealousy, and fractured identity as stalker fuel. Don't die. Seriously, never die if she's stalking you. Mechanics reinforce discomfort rather than panic. So my in-depth analysis of Halloween 2, since Michael Myers is the original stalker and he's the pioneer of horror in general. Myers as the pro-stalker, no emotion, no urgency, only inevitability. It's eventual. It's gonna happen. Use of silence, slow pacing, and long shots to replicate dread. How Halloween 2 shaped the DNA of game stalkers, because again, he is the original stalker, and you get the original stalking sequence in Halloween 2. Even though Count Orlok kind of sort of put it was stalking people. kind of, sort of. But I didn't want to use him as an example just because the way Michael Myers stalks people is similar to how like Mr. X would stalk people. Just not besides like breaking down doors and all that stuff. Like if he catches you, you're gonna die. So this is gonna be a specific breakdown of scenes with dubbed analysis, tying it back to supplement point of the video, which I'm gonna be totally like unbiased. I'm gonna give my honest analysis with no crazy opinions because I know people hate my opinions. So why Stalkers work? The psychology of fear in horror design. So we fear unpredictability, the omnipresence of the Stalker, and how helpless we feel as a player. Stalkers break the power fantasy, and for us to survive, we have to win. The design principle, so the tension is going to be over the shock, the dread being over the gore. And the emotional endurance you have to face becomes part of the gameplay. So our role in the Stalker dynamic, we're not just controlling someone being hunted. Us as a player, we're being hunted ourselves. Stalkers manipulate player behavior. We're more cautious. We take risks, so risk aversion, and we're more paranoid because we know if we're not going to be careful in the way we play, the Stalker is going to get us. So that ties into the illusion of player control. So we feel that we're in control, but they're the ones shaping our actions. They're the ones making us be a little bit more tense, a little bit more careful. We're looking behind us like, oh crap, there's a noise, there's footsteps. I have to be more careful, so I'm not in control. And that ties into emotional fatigue because, like, for example, dealing with Mr. X. Mr. X, he is a troll. He's a troll. He is a troll. He's a toll on you. Like, it's very, very. It's not difficult to avoid him. It's just very lengthy because his AI is extremely smart. Even using like the aliens AI or the working Joes, it takes a toll on you. Like you get tired, and definitely get tired, mentally and physically. The Stalker's always on your ass. They're your shadow. They become your shadow, always present even when they're unseen, which ties into horror movie villains. For example, Michael Myers, even though he's not in the shot, you know he's there. I've used an example in my how horror games build tension. Jason Voorhees, even though he's not in the shot, you just know there's a killer out to get you, and he's always present even though you can't see him. Okay, we can move on to the conclusion now. I think we've covered all our bases. So, for a conclusion, we can let's recap of the unique psychological, mechanical. Go back to school. Unique psychological, mechanical, and symbolic powers that Stalkers hold. Okay. We can talk about why they endure. Why Stalkers endure. Because being hunted is a universal fear. Right? Let's put a final thought here. So give me a second to think about this. Final thought. So using myself as somebody, again, I like horror games, I like horror movies, so I've been around the spectrum. So I would say my biggest fear when dealing with Stalker is I think my biggest fear is the fact, even though they're not present, that I know that they're always there. I think that's my biggest fear. It's like, even though I can't see you, there's a sixth sense that lets me know, like, internally, yeah, they're there. They're still there. Um, okay, scariest, and I'm just using this as a broad example. Scariest thing about stalkers isn't, as I proceed to look behind me, isn't that I always check the backseat of my car because of horror movies. Isn't that they're behind you? Isn't that they're behind you? And again, this ties into the fact that, yeah, like, even though they're not present right now, there's the sixth sense that lets you know, like, even though I can't visually see them, they're around. So you get the, yes, there we go. It's knowing, it's knowing, it's knowing that they never left. Bam. The scariest thing about stalkers isn't that they're behind you, it's knowing that they never left. I like it. Cool. So just to recap, our sections that we're going to talk about in this video are going to be the psychological effects of being stalked, what each stalker represents, an in-depth analysis of each stalker, stalking in cinema, why stalkers work, the psychology of fear, the player's role in the stalker dynamic, and that's pretty much it. So good shit, pretty straightforward. I might work on the script later. I'm not 100% sure yet because I still have a lot of other projects I need to work on, but good shit. And yeah, be expecting this video maybe in the next week or so. I'll start the script as soon as I can. Other than that, I'll see y'all later. Unfortunately, it's time for me to go work out and have some food.